You're listening to the Martin Clinic Wellness Podcast. This is the show where we bring you the best tips, tricks, and nutritional hacks to help you and your family get healthier. You will also hear what works and doesn't work, so you don't have to waste your time and money. All right, let's get started. Hello, my name is Dr. Tony Martin Jr., the Martin Clinic, and I'm here with my dad, Dr. Tony Martin Sr., from the Martin Clinic as well. And today we want to talk about, we are recording this in October of 2016. And, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You turn on the TV and, I'm a Chicago Bears fan and everybody's wearing pink everything.
Pink running shoes. And
it's
pink gloves.
I mean, a lot of money this time of year is raised for cancer, specifically breast cancer. And, listen, breast cancer is a very emotional it touches everyone. I mean, first of all, the statistics I think are 1 in 8. So, I mean, everybody pretty much knows somebody who has breast cancer. It's affected us personally as well. I mean, we've been personally affected by breast cancer. We've seen it. We've been through it with loved one. So we understand. So all this is, from the public's perspective is done with good intentions, right? I mean, who doesn't want to put an end to breast cancer? Unfortunately, a lot of these charities, quote unquote charities that are raising money, you can go look it up. Very little of it actually goes out. It's a big marketing thing, but that's another issue for another day. I would definitely, if you are giving, I would look at the organization and see how much of it actually goes out versus supporting and paying for high-end salaries and marketing companies. And, I think there was a story done with the NFL. I think less than 1% ended up going out, right? So, I mean, that's a big machine. And they're going to set records for fundraising this year. So, I mean, they should absolutely be held accountable for where that money goes. But again, that's not the intent of this episode. We don't want to talk about that. We just want to highlight that. But I just want to bring a few statistics in. We mentioned this in a newsletter a while ago, and we got a lot of feedback on this. And I just want to mention it. First of all, the title of the newsletter we wrote was "We Are Not Winning the War on Cancer." And this is taken straight from the American Cancer Society. These are their numbers. Basically, since 2012 to 2016, there has been a 2.7% increase in new cancer cases and a 3.1% increase in cancer deaths. So think of all the money and all the drugs and all the research that has gone on even since 2012, because this machine gets bigger and bigger every year. I mean, in Canada we have the CIBC Run for the Cure, and it's a big machine. A lot of money is getting spent. And here, yet, we're not winning the war on cancer. We're not. It doesn't matter how they spin it. The numbers.
The outcome's not good.
No, the outcome. The numbers speak for themselves. I mean, more people are getting cancer, and more people are dying from cancer. Those are the facts, and I think the facts have to be addressed. I think they have to be held accountable.
Yeah. Well, we do it here, right? I mean, our podcast is all about. As Bill O'Reilly would say, looking out for the folks, right? Like we want to let people, get, because you hear, don't question, right? Don't ask.
Well, it's a sensitive subject, right? Like, do you not want to cure breast cancer?
Yeah. Like, why would you be against it?
Yeah. Why would you? Yeah. What, like I said.
Well, if it worked, I wouldn't be against it.
No, absolutely not. We've been touched by breast cancer. Of course we would. Yeah. Absolutely.
And when we wrote our book, Are You Built for Cancer? We went into big time questioning that, when you look at, if you want to be specific with breast cancer, when I started practice, and this is a fact, in the 70s, 1 out of 20 Canadian women would get breast cancer. It's 1 out of 7 or 1 out of 8. It's getting worse.
It's getting more, absolutely.
And I want to know, you see, with me, I want to know why, right? Because if you listen to Big Pharma, if they were successful in eradicating cancer, who would be shouting about it? I'd be the happiest person in the world. But the problem is that breast cancer is always treated the same way. there's never
just
ever,
change the name of the drug.
Yeah.
And add in radiation and chemo.
Yeah. Because it's always the same.
It's the 80s. This is the drug that was used. It was the 90s. This is the drug that was used. 2000s. This is the drug. And now we're on this drug. Yeah. So it's drug X plus chemo plus radiation. That's what's done. Yeah. Money. And listen, again, and we always get, whenever we say this, we always get emails. Always. Like we always get the, oh yeah, buts, right? We always get them. Whether or not that was the intention, there was a slogan out there, and there was a slogan out there for a long time, and a lot of people have heard this, that, early detection is the best form of prevention, right? Let's spend money, get the best imaging in the world to catch it early. That, early detection is the best form of prevention. Well, man, we have a completely different definition. I would rather not get it in the first place. I would rather prevent it as the best form of prevention, not catching it early. But see, that's what they've resolved themselves to, is that, listen, 1 of 8 are going to get it, so let's catch it early. And it's true, catch it early. But the whole mindset of that is where you got to question, is like, man, like early detection is the best form of prevention. Let's catch it early, we can treat it, right? So, yeah, we have a lot of issues with the current approach. And so what we want to do on this episode is we want to talk about a few things that kind of came in under the wire. Not a lot of fanfare. These are studies that were published. A couple of news magazines, stuff like that. Newspapers picked it up, but never really made any kind of dent. First, I want to just talk about something that was done. It was a meta-analysis, which, again, a meta-analysis in the research world is the gold standard. That generally is well received in terms of the burdens of proof. So there was a meta-analysis done of risk of cancers in people with diabetes, right? So type 2 diabetics, they did a meta-analysis, and what they found here is that basically if you are a diabetic, your chance of cancer, kidney cancer goes up considerably, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma goes up considerably, endometrial cancer goes up considerably, breast cancer goes up considerably, liver is it goes up the highest, liver cancer, bladder cancer, colorectal cancer, and pancreatic cancer. So there's a meta-analysis is showing that there's definitely something that goes on with the physiology of diabetes that increases your risk of cancers. And we'll talk about that in a second. But a meta-analysis is showing that there's something in the biochemistry of type 2 diabetics that is increasing the risk of cancers. And these are the main cancers here. These are not like the obscure cancers. These are the big cancers. These are the commonly diagnosed cancers, right? And then another study was done. This is interesting. Another study which reviewed thousands of other studies has basically found evidence that being overweight or obese increases the risk for 13 types of cancers. And this is what the study found specifically. The study found that they make up more than 42% of new cancer diagnoses. So these 13 cancers make up more than 42% of new cancer diagnoses, and they're all linked to being overweight or obesity. So again, there's something in the biochemistry of being overweight, there's something in the biochemistry of being obese that is increasing the risk. One out of every two new cancers diagnosed is linked to being overweight. So there's something in the biochemistry, and we're going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But this is what they link here. So this was a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which again carries a lot of thing. And what they did is they linked 8 new cancers to the list before, so to bring it to a total of 13. And here they are: gastric cancers, liver, again, we knew that, gallbladder, we talked about, pancreatic cancer, thyroid cancer, ovarian cancer, meningiomas, which is a type of brain cancer, multiple myeloma, which is a type of blood cancer. And what they go on to say is that only smoking comes close as an environmental factor affecting cancer risk. Comes close. And we all know that smoking causes cancer. But obesity is worse. 13 different types of cancers, basically 1 out of every 2 new cancer being diagnosed, linked to being overweight or obese. So the same thing with diabetics, as I read that meta-analysis. There's something in type 2 diabetics biochemistry, there's something in an overweight biochemistry that increases the risk of cancers. And now that we're in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, that cancer's on the list as well. So what is that? What is the biochemistry? What is that change in the biochemistry that also increases the risk of cancers?
Can I say it?
Yeah. If you've listened to any of our podcasts, read any of our newsletters,
it's the growth hormone, right? It's insulin.
It's insulin
causing inflammation, right?
Hyperinsulinemia is, again, at the forefront of all these things.
So,
well, because you know what it is? Yeah. A lot of these things here are basically metabolic diseases. Cancer is a metabolic disease. Yeah. There's a real...
That's why there'll never be a drug for it.
And that's why there'll never be a genetic...
Drug. So, like if it's
a metabolic
all the money's going to go to looking for a medication, because all the money goes back to Big Pharma. And I understand why Big Pharma does it. I do. I mean, I'm not stupid. I mean, if you're in a public company and, your shareholders are screaming at you, like, okay, I understand why the drug companies do it, but it should not affect science.
Well, yeah, it shouldn't, but they're the only ones doing science. They're the ones paying for research because research is expensive.
It's expensive, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, folks, the answer's in front of us.
Well, and the sad thing is that, again, there's a lot of debate out there, cancer as a metabolic disease, a disease of the mitochondria, which are the battery pack of the cells, versus a genetic component, right? Now, we believe in, obviously, it's not even something to believe in. It's a fact. There's epigenetics where your environment and your day-to-day stuff can influence the genetics, for sure. But again, these cancers and a lot of the new cancer cases are showing that the biggest problem that we have today is a metabolic diseases that are these cancers are metabolic cancers. So you have to approach them from a metabolic standpoint and figure out what's going wrong. Well, the mitochondria are getting messed up. They're getting diseased. And what's happening? Well, too much insulin over a long period of time causes inflammation. Now, there are environmental toxins for sure.
Estrogen,
xenoestrogens. There's a whole whack of things that get in there that mess up and kill your metabolic. They cause metabolic. They kill your mitochondria, right? Yeah. I mean, like you said, there are xenoestrogens, there are chemicals. Our skin, we ask this all the time because people forget this. Our skin is our largest organ. There's a reason why skin cancer is going up. It's an organ. We throw so many chemicals out there. We walk into the sun with these chemicals, skin lotions, and all these things on our skin. And, if you want to add any kind of energy to any chemical reaction, you add heat. So you're throwing the sun in there on all these chemicals.
It's a Bunsen burner, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everybody remembers that.
Remember that from
everybody was terrified of the.
Right?
Who wasn't scared of the Bunsen burner?
Yeah, especially when you had a little concoction.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't know what was going to happen.
Everybody was terrified of the Bunsen burner, right?
You added heat to it.
Well, what's funny is that, you always think back to science in the high school. They got these Bunsen. You need a ticket from 3 years, 4 years of college and apprenticeships to play around with these things, and then you got all these high school students who can just turn on this tap. And anyways, it's a funny thing, right? But
so you go out in the sun.
Yeah, it starts this chemical reaction.
You got chemicals on your skin because Johnson & Johnson has told you to lather you up so that you don't get any sunburn. Right?
And then they're at a beach, they're going into the water in a lake that is, has high levels of estrogen in it. That's a fact. Look it up. Lakes have high levels of estrogen. So, it's just we're bombarded by chemicals. But all these things are not without cause. That they mess up our mitochondria. They cause these metabolic diseases. Food is the biggest drug that we take. We say that all the time, but it's so important for you to understand. Food influences our biochemistry.
And it's the thing you can control the most.
It's one of the only things you can control.
Right?
You can go organic and all that kind of stuff, but you're walking through stuff. It's everywhere.
Come on. You're going to leave the planet, really, to not be affected by chemicals? And I'm not saying you shouldn't try to minimize, do everything
you can. Especially your cleaning house stuff at home.
Products, even your personal stuff, as much as you can. But, hey.
You step outside, you're in it.
Yeah. Come on.
You're in it. Food, you can control your food as much, right? And the nice thing is the human body is forgiving.
Yeah.
It's not asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to, do a better job and do it more consistently. It's not asking for perfection. Our body is an amazing detoxification vehicle that, it's fantastic. So it's not asking.
And the only dent that has ever been made in cancer, the only dent that's ever been made in cancer is when people stop smoking. And the new smoking is sugar, right? I mean, now they know, right? It's the new smoking. And the only dent, in spite of all the money that's been spent on cancer research, like drugs haven't made a dent, not even one little bit. All the money that they spent, and there hasn't, well, as a matter of fact, it's worse. But the dent that was made in the 70s and the early 80s in cancer, because it actually went down for a bit, was because people stopped smoking, right?
And you know what's funny is that right now we're going, a lot of different states, and even in Ontario, they're talking about a soda tax because when they started taxing cigarettes, that put a real dent in the amount of people. I mean, that worked, right? Yeah. I mean, that had a major effect on the smoking habits of people. So they're talking about a soda tax. The problem is that cigarettes, if you wanted to get like if you wanted to get lung cancer from cigarettes, you had to smoke cigarettes. Soda is just a 1% way that people get sugar. I mean,
we always talk about it. Don't drink your sugar. It's one of the worst things.
I mean,
you can
sugar's
do.
in everything.
Yeah,
right. I mean, it's in everything.
Read your label.
So, I mean,
when you wrote on the walls there in our office, right? People kind of like it. I said I should have spanked them more as a kid, but when you wrote on the walls that when you have an Activia, right, or Daname or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, it's just loaded with sugar.
A yogurt.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme donuts.
You have 2.5 Krispy Kreme donuts. Campbell's tomato soup.
Yeah, most people don't realize, and the reason why I did the tomato soup on the wall is because one of the things that people ate for lunch all the time was tomato soup.
Yeah.
It's tomato soup.
Yeah, come on. There's no sugar in that.
But a lot of them are loaded with sugar.
Label.
Yeah, they're loaded with sugar, right? And it's like, it's unfortunate. But
yeah.
So the point of this podcast is to first of all, we got to think a little bit here. Is, take a step back. Is what we're doing working? Is this the best solution? We're always trying to find that drug, that miracle drug that's just going to make cancer go away.
Well, you'll see it on the internet, right? Every once in a while, I'll read this on the internet.
They found the cure to cancer.
They found the cure to cancer, but you're never going to hear it. No, they didn't. Well, it's food.
Well,
but,
yeah, I mean,
that's not what they're talking about.
There's a million causes
right?
of cancer.
Yeah, like they'll say, look, they found it and they're hiding it because the last thing they want is to be able to cure cancer. Well, I'm not into that conspiracy theory. I really am not, because I know, and just like you've said, it's a metabolic disorder. It's much more complicated than that. It's not a matter, well, you take this drug and it's going to cure cancer.
It's a mitochondrial. It's a way more difficult than that. Yeah. But what the evidence is starting to show is that it is linked to obesity. A lot of the cancers, it is linked to being overweight, and there is a definite link to diabetes. So you have to then step back and say, okay, if one of the two new cancers being diagnosed are linked to that somehow, what's going on in the biochemistry and physiology of that is making that more likely? And it's easy to tie it at that point. Then you have to look at, okay, obesity, being overweight are all signs of too much insulin resistance to a varying degree. Diabetes is a disease of insulin. So then maybe let's look at insulin. Let's start to, and what does insulin do to the cells?
Exactly. And then, people say, well, you know what, Doc, like you're always talking like that. Like you're always picking on like I'm a one-trick pony. Look, I see thousands of patients every year. Thousands of patients. I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cancer patients every year. I see it all. Like my office, as you well know, our clinic is like we see a lot of patients every year, right? And we do a lot of testing in our office. Thousands every year. And you know what? Folks, listen, we come back to the one thing, and that's why we talk about it all the time, because
if 8 out of 10 people have that common link, you have to look at it.
Sure you do.
But again, it's frustrating because, it goes counter-current to what's being done today. It isn't a drug, because the diabetes drugs are disasters. They're disasters, right? So, it's they want you looking in a certain direction. They want you the champion. Let's just find that drug, that breakthrough drug. Let's throw as much money as we can at it. Let's find it, and it's going to make everything better. Let's do these run for the cures, raise money, and get, everybody's been touched by breast cancer. So of course it's a personal issue, and let's rally the troops. Let's raise the money. Let's spend it. And unfortunately, let's see the results now. Now, let's start to demand the results. You want to raise money, show us the results.
Yeah.
Give us, we would demand it from everything else. Because this is an emotional issue, we should be demanding even more from that. Show me what you've done. Let's see the proof. Anyways, again, we want to thank you for tuning into this episode. And if you have any questions, you can email us at info@martinclinic.com. And again, we would invite you to, check out our Facebook page. We do a Facebook Live event every Thursday morning. So we would encourage you to join us there, ask us some questions. And if you're not a newsletter subscriber, go to our website, martinclinic.com, and join up. And it's free, and we share a lot of information like this throughout the week. So again, we want to thank you for listening. You've been listening to the Martin Clinic Wellness Podcast, brought to you by martinclinic.com. We are truly thankful that you took the time out of your busy day to listen. Talk soon.